Welcome back, MTG Joe here. This weekend is the standard best of three play-in qualifier, as well as qualifier weekends. So Friday today will be the day you can do your last chance qualifier to get into the play-in tournament tomorrow. The play-in tournament will be your chance to qualify for the Arena Championship. They're both standard best of three this weekend. Last weekend was the best of one qualifier. So similar to last week, we're going to go over some deck options that you can bring to the weekend. I'm not going to go as detailed as the best of one, because my voice is kind of getting shot from a concert last night. And I think in best of three, it's a little bit more congregated towards the top of a couple key decks. So we're going to be focusing on the three decks that have the highest win rate right now from Untapped from March 3rd to the 10th, Diamond to Mythic rank, 13,000 games played. So we're just going to dive into it. Quick little request, note, comment if you can. If you like this type of meta content, we cover it every single week across every format as much as possible that the data provides. It gives you a look in terms of trends, in terms of what's happening. I am trying to hit 10,000 subs by June. We're closing in on 8,000. So if you haven't subbed to the channel, it's free to do on YouTube. Hit the sub button, goes a long way, helps me out, costs you nothing. But that's pretty much it. Just trying to hit that goal for June. But we're going to dive into it. And the top performing decks, there's actually two mono red decks that we're going to cover. And if we look at the main board configurations, they're largely the same, with the only difference being one fewer land in a Shivan Devastator main. So this version here, I believe, is from the Japanese RC, where it had a good placing. So we're seeing the Grix as a 5th colorless land in the deck. This allows in grindier games for you to continue to create creatures. So one's at 63% win rate, this one's at 61%, so about 1.5% difference between them. The cores of the decks are the same, so they're aggressively slanted red decks, predominantly curving out 1-2, and then your 3-4s are Squee and Thundering Raiju to kind of close out the game, go wide in that case. The decks have 10 pieces of burn-based removal, Play with Fire, Lightning Strike, Strangle to deal with early creatures. Your cheap creatures are like Swiftspear, Phoenix Chick, Kumano Pings, and Pumps. The Bloodthirsty Adversary flashes back anything's in your graveyard, and then Feldin as a way to kind of get pseudo card advantage. This version's on the 2 Sokuzens, Mishra's as a creature land, and then, like I said, the Grix. So this version in the sideboard, this is where we're starting to see the deviations between the two lists. So this one's a more traditional kind of sideboard list. This list here is, like I said, it's from the Japanese tournament. They're playing 4 Koths, Fire of Resistance in the sideboard. So against like some of the bigger creature decks, like kind of the slower decks, I could see this maybe coming in against like Esper midrange, maybe the even the mono white control decks, like the midrange decks. It deals with a creature that can scale up. It also hits Shieldred. It wouldn't be bad in the Grixis matchup. It does get hit by Invoke, but they may be boarding out Invokes against you anyways because they're usually a little bit faster. It's a pretty quick ultimate as well, and then the ultimate lets you deal 4 damage. Rending Flame for Shieldreds, anything 5 power. So kind of post-board, it becomes like a mono-red mid-range deck. Apologies. So you have your Fables kind of for value and grind. You take out like your Squeeze, Chandros for card advantage, and then Obliterating Bolt is more card advantage. There's actually elements of this sideboard I like better. I think Grixis is going to be heavily played this weekend, so the Furnace Punisher coming in does a lot of good work. So 3 mana, 3/3 Menace. Beginning of each player's upkeep deals 2 damage to that player unless they control 2 or more basics. So against Esper midrange, against any of the Atraxa piles, against Grixis midrange, this basically deals 2 on upkeep to them. And it's just it's a hard to block body with a decent like stat line. 3 mana, 3/3 Menace isn't bad, and then the added text is relevant. So this version here is only on like 3 Mishra's Foundries, 2 Sokuzens, and then it's got the Shivan Devastator as the 23rd land slot. So you have more burn. The Bloody Betrayal can steal like Atraxas, big things, kind of get out of the way. The Brotherhood's End allows you to just kind of scale up in certain matchups. So like if you're on the play against aggressive decks, even against like mono red in the play, if you're like behind, they kind of spread out. You can catch up against soldiers, against infect, it also or toxic. It all kind of plays like that. And then Rebel Salvo or the Flames, whatever it's called, Rending Flames, pretty much the same. The Flames probably actually has... So there's not really indestructible in the format. No, I guess there is, because the Celestia Toxic decks have Tyvar Stand. So it's kind of what you're anticipating him playing, because the salvo is actually better against Tyvar stand because it gets around that, where the flame, it hits Denic and stuff, which happen to be spirits, so you get 2 points of extra damage. The card advantage element is Jaya in the sideboard here. So that's kind of the mono red configurations. How you want to approach it, I think, is kind of more what you anticipate in terms of the meta. This one's kind of the more tried and shrewd version of the deck that you see more on like MTGO and stuff like that, especially with the sideboard. So then we go to Grixis midrange, and the thing to preface with Grixis, there's many ways to build Grixis. The kind of core is there, but the slots are always like here or there, kind of adding cards in. Those versions at 60, almost 61%. And the core of the deck, sorry again, I'm losing my voice, so just trying to get through. We have Fable, Corpse Appraiser, Blood Tithe, Harvester, Sheoldred, and Invoke Despair. That's kind of the core of the deck. And then you're pairing that with like Blade Coil Serpent, just a good mana sink, top end, could close the game out. Brotherhood's End main to deal with all the creature decks. A Braid, flexible removal spell. Also, like, so the thing is with the Braid, it deals in the creature matchups, but it also deals with like the Bank Busters and the kind of more grindier matchups. Go for the Throat, make Disappear negate. So kind of some considerations main in terms of negate main. Make Disappear tags a lot of things on curve too, so it helps out in that regard. And then you got your copies of Reckoner, Bank Buster. Cut down for early aggressive decks. The rest, Disdainful Stroke kind of for the mirror. Parasitic Grasp for humans. The Esper Legends, mono red. It's a lot of the things are incidentally humans if you look at. So like, so Spear's human, the Felden's human. So you get the reduced cost, but the life gain also can help in those matchups. Razor Lash, the Transmogrant is for the mirror. Or for Esper, they tend to have a lot of non-basics, so it can keep coming back for 2 mana, just a sticky threat. Siphon Insight is also a card for kind of the black, blue, red, black kind of grindy mid-range decks. And then Brotherhood's End for the aggressive decks. And then lastly, Selesnya Toxic, 59%. And this one here, you're trying to poison your opponent. So like I was saying, they usually play Tyvar Stand as a couple in here. So you do have like the Venerated Raw Priest to kind of give incidental poison if they target your stuff, but really it's a creature attacking deck to get toxic damage on your opponent. You have lords like Slaughter Singer. The Skrull's Hive makes tokens every turn, and if you can get them corrupted, you have the lifelink. Every creature in your deck is toxic, so you get the lifelink there. Annex Sentry is kind of your removal, as well as the versions now are playing Charge of the Mites. So it's either like deal damage equal to the number of creatures you control, the target creature or planeswalker, or instant speed create 2 mites on their end step. So it could kind of screw up their math that way there. The Bloated Contaminator allows you to kind of push through extra damage and then proliferate as well. And then the mana base is playing a bunch of utility lands in the Myrex to make tokens, as well as Seed Core to pump up your team there. The sideboard for mono white, for like the Esper matchups, you kind of get the value there. Lantern Flare, you're never actually casting it for the cleave cost. You're just casting it for its deals damage to target creature, planeswalker, and you gain X life, and then X is the total number of creatures you control. So in this case here, this deck usually goes a little bit wide with the tokens and stuff like that. So it's kind of a Lightning Helix-esque effect, but you're just contingent on having a board state. Graveyard Hate, Carnivorous Canopy deals with artifacts, enchantments, or flyers. So it deals with like Atraxa, stuff like that. And if it's smaller things, so 3 CMC or less. So if you're targeting things like a wedding announcement, ossification, Fable the Mirror Breaker, Reckoner Bank Buster, you get to proliferate as well. And then put some counters on it in that regard. And then wedding announcements for like the Grixis matchups, the Esper matchups, any kind of the grindier decks, you bring in the wedding announcements. So that's pretty much it for the week. I'll post all these deck lists in the video description. Other considerations you can have, and you can check out like my past videos on the thing if you want to see. There's a lot of like Esper midrange being tried out. There's like random red-black piles that either try to cheat into play Atraxa or just kind of go fair value plan. So there's kind of some variations there. There's mono white mid-range you can play. That they usually play Depopulate Farewell on the side. Those games usually go quite grindy in that regard, but if you're expecting a lot of like Grixis, the mono white deck I believe has a favorable matchup against the Grixis deck. So it's kind of just how you want to play there. Like the The Rakdos deck has a hard time against mono white, so it's kind of how you want to meta game. The format's largely rock paper scissors based, which is actually good for once. There's no like one clear cut like when Grixis was like 70% of the meta. But it's really just playing what you're comfortable with, what you know the best, and kind of going from there. Good luck to all those who participate, and we'll catch you next time for more content. Thanks for watching.